shall live such a life as a good human being that you may find it worthy to serve as an example for your children. I have no personal goals other than to fulfill your hopes and aspirations. I shall always serve you day and night in the spirit of kindness, justice, and equality. His Majesty the King. Kuzuzongola, and welcome to your UN House. The theme for Bhutan Dialogues today is Inclusivity and Loving Kindness, the only educational technology to drive the engine of human well-being. I'm going to repeat that title because there's a lot in it. Inclusivity and Loving Kindness, the only educational technology to drive the engine of human well-being. So as I was thinking about this theme, I remembered a previous Bhutan Dialogues where we had Deki Chodan from the Early Learning Center. And some of you may remember that every morning at the Early Learning Center there is a meditation for the school kids at Early Learning Center. So I felt that that would be a practical reminder for today's discussion. But I felt with this language of educational technology, I felt Lopen was giving me the opportunity to do some research on the practical values of loving kindness. And there's many practical examples, so I'm only going to quote 6. And I hope that some of these 6 surprise some of you. For example, loving kindness meditation will reduce those of you who have migraines, the amount of migraines. It will reduce, for those of you who have chronic back pain, loving kindness meditation will help reduce lower back pain. For those of you who wish to increase your social connection, loving kindness will help you. For those of you who wish to reduce self-criticism, loving kindness meditation will help you. For those of you who wish to increase emotional intelligence, loving kindness will help you. And finally, for those of you who want to slow down aging, loving kindness meditation, loving kindness will also help you. Our speaker today is Lopen Lungtaen Gyatso. Lopen is currently the president of the College of Language of Culture Studies in Tampse. He's faculty with RIGSS and with the Kathmandu University. And he's a member of the National Constitution, or he was, a member of the National Constitution Drafting Committee. Dr. Karma, of course, is founder of the Lopen Foundation. Believe it or not, he has 14 academic appointments and 12 non-academic appointments. And I asked some of my colleagues, well, what are these non-academic appointments? And the answer was, he has spent some time herding cows and working on his family farm. Finally, I've come to my closing. We have Sarin Denker. Maybe Sarin, you just put up your hand. Sarin Denker will be joining us for the add-on session, where she will be speaking about the success that she has met with on her blog, Denker's Getaway. We also are very fortunate to have Pema Ladin from Shaul Food, who will be sharing with us her tofu porridge and tofu snacks. This is part of the Lopen and UN Foundation support to young entrepreneurs here in Bhutan. And finally, as you all know, we are recording today's event for YouTube and podcast dissemination. It would be great if you could switch off your phones now. With that, let me invite Dr. Karma to take over.
Welcome to Bhutan Dialogues. You are the first Bhutanese in robes to join us here at Bhutan Dialogues, and thank you for taking the time and trouble to come all the way from Dzongkha to share your wisdom on inclusivity and loving kindness today. The Bhutan Dialogues is a forum where we try to promote an inclusive space for critical thinking, for expansion of our thoughts, to cultivate a sense of curiosity and courage, all through civil conversations. And we focus a lot on the educational development of the person. You being the president, the leader of a premier educational institution in the country focusing on Bhutan's cultural education, it's a great honor for us to have you here, share your thoughts on the educational evolution of the country as a whole and we as individuals. So, Lopen, before we delve further into today's topic, I would like to ask you personally to share your own life story, your own evolution, education and otherwise, of how you came to be who you are right now.
Thank you, Dr. Kama. Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here. I come from a very ordinary Bhutanese, typical Bhutanese family from the East. I grew up listening to evening bedtime stories from my parents. They used to tell us, we are four in the family, I'm the eldest, and my parents used to tell us stories of real life challenges, of poverty, famine, and then the local governance system. And he also, used to tell us stories of how he was conscripted into the army, how he got into the trainings in those early days without the army outfit that you see today, with gold in Lungtaen and hardships that he had. And so my parents, gave me that feeling of, how to be a human being, because my parents always insisted that no innocent should suffer because of you. That was the, sort of. And at the age of almost like 7 years, I insisted that I go to school. And it was not the parents, but I insisted that I go to school. And I today remember that it was sometimes in 1973 when I went to the school. Why I remember that is in 1972 when His Majesty the King passed away, my mother was crying and she was telling me, Kusho has, expired. And I was a little boy, hardly 7 years. And I was thinking, what is Kusho? Maybe some distant relative of mine may have died, but I discovered it was His Majesty the Third King. And that's how I first understood loyalty to our monarchs, what it meant to the Bhutanese population. Then, I was in the next year, following year, 1973. That's how I now today make out that I was, into school in 1973. I loved reading books, studied, very joyfully. Little difficult boy, very restless, because as my parents were very normal farmers, I did not have any expectation. Whatever came my way, I just enjoyed, be it a little candy or a chewing gum or a slipper for that matter. Everything that they provided me made sense to me, and I was really. And then at the age of 15, I think in 1983, I left for India to study Buddhism, and that's where we met in Mysore. And in Mysore, I volunteered. I was because I had some rudimentary understanding of how electrical, light fittings work. So I was the only person who had little idea. So I was made the electrician. Wherever there was some, faults, I would attend to it. And I also volunteered to be the toilet cleaner. And my role was, whenever there was a toilet block, I had to mobilize and find somebody from the local community. And at times, when nobody was available, I put myself into the task. I volunteered because I believe volunteerism is all about doing something willingly. And when you do something willingly, you do the best you can, because you're doing it out of your sheer interest. And then I came to North India in Varanasi. I studied Sanskrit language and literature till 1997. I graduated from Sanskrit University, and I was in fact very fortunate to be selected as one of the persons by the Delhi National Council for Research and Educational Training to teach the Delhi government Sanskrit, teachers to teach Sanskrit through Sanskrit language. And that was a privilege and honor for me. I came out in the Indian newspaper, somebody from outside teaching the Indians that to their language to teach Sanskrit through Sanskrit language, because in India, even today, Sanskrit is taught either through Hindi or through English largely. But now it has gained momentum and people do study Sanskrit through Sanskrit language. And I worked for this NCRT for about a year, 1997-98. And it was in 1999 when our late Dasho Sangye Wangchuk, he was then the secretary for Tatsanglen, so he insisted that I come to Bhutan and work, somewhere. So I had to give, in to his request, I came to Bhutan, and then that's how I landed up at the College of Language and Cultural Studies. And so
it's like over 20 years now?
Yeah, it's now over 20 years in Bhutan after staying about 20 plus years in India. So fundamentally, my parents have given me that, and one remarkable thing that I can, when I look back is that I see, later on I was in Womrong school, and Womrong was the hub of the communities around, Pamakats, not Pamakats, Kangpara, Tinshing, all this. And my parents moved to that place. And because people, came to that place, my parents used to host people from faraway places to usually that happens in Bhutanese typical villages. And I remember that my parents, we hardly ate our dinners without any guest. And that's how I, imbibe some of the values, how to be, humble and generous, and to, treat others. And that has set the foundation. And then today, I try to imbibe that. I try to live with that.
Yeah. So talking about this local culture of hospitality, your house sounds pretty much like my own home in Ura, right on the highway, and how we have to entertain guests. Now, when you look at the current education system, you are leading the only mainstream educational institution that focuses on local cultural and spiritual heritage. Can you tell us what is different, what kind of challenges or opportunities your college has vis-a-vis other institutions?
I think, College of Language and Culture Studies, when we talk about culture, it's 10% outside expression, 90% inner exploration, culture.
Intangible culture.
Yeah, yes. So, if you look at the education system today, you'll see, so much is taught how to fix the outside world, right? Yes, fixing outside is very important because it leads to your survival process. If you fix outside, physical well-being happen, very important. But just fixing outside does not necessarily ensure inner well-being, right? So you can be a billionaire, but still feel miserable. So it's not the outside situation that determines the inner quality. The quality of your life is not determined by what car you drive or what house you live in and what bank balance you have. Because if that was true, then the rich people on the planet, all the rich people on the planet would be very joyful by their own nature, but that isn't the case. So when we talk about culture, we are looking at what is that other dimension that contributes to human well-being. Then lies the answer that once the survival processes are ensured, then you have to look inward to fix within, because only when you fix within ensures your true well-being. And in that context, when we talk about culture, we are focusing on that one, because at the end of the day, whether you are an engineer, whether you are a doctor, irrespective of what you do, you still want to be happy, and you have to pursue that. In addition to the survival processes that you go through, ensuring survival process, I think, may be adequate for other beings, but for human beings, once the survival processes are ensured, then you look for inner well-being. That is over and above survival process. So that's what, when we talk about cultural studies, we focus on those, not to say that we undermine fixing the outside world. Definitely, if you are not, if your physical well-being is not ensured, you wouldn't be here even today to attend this talk. Simply because you have, with science and technology, we experience a certain level of, in fact, unprecedented level of comfort and convenience today. But are we the most happiest generation ever? I think that's something that we need to ask ourselves. So which means, just by fixing the outside world, outside reality, does not really ensure the inner reality. So that's what we are trying to.
And is it fair to say then that those students who come out of Tassai College of Language and Culture Studies are much better prepared internally to face life in the world than students from other colleges? Would you say?
Well, that would be a blanket sort of a statement, because when we talk about inner journey, since there is no physical distance to travel, if your intelligence is awakened to higher levels, people can make out and understand on their own, and it is possible that other students in other colleges would have also figured out by themselves. But when you are not able to figure out on your own, you are into a new place, you are looking for a particular place. Can you find out on your own? Yes, definitely you can. But you'll have to bang your head many times against all things, and where it's supposed to take 10 minutes, you would spend the entire day looking for yourself. But if you're relying on a local guide who knows the geography, who knows the terrain, if you seek his assistance, perhaps you will get closer, to the place very, very quickly. So from that point of view, because I try to talk to the students about these issues, I assume that they would have at least some understanding as to how to apply these life competencies into their real life situation. But this does not mean others won't have, because you can make out. Buddha, made himself. But we have to rely on our spiritual gurus. And the importance of spiritual guru, the root guru, is simply this, that the guru has walked the terrain. He knows the terrain perfectly. He has been there. So just we rely on him, and he holds our hand and text there, right there. That is the role of a teacher. So perhaps from that angle, maybe our students would have little, comparatively little, more understanding than others, but does not mean others wouldn't have.
So for today's topic, you shared with us inclusivity and loving kindness. I can't find it now somewhere. The only educational technology to drive the engine of human well-being. So many things in it, as Jerry earlier pointed out. What does inclusivity mean to you? And especially at this point in time, when you look around the world, you look at the US under Trump, you look at Brexit mess, you look at Xi Jinping and China, you look at Modi and India, there are so many exclusivist, protectionist, nationalist fervor going on across the world. So, in the face of all this, what is inclusivity? What do you mean by that, and how can people adopt it?
I think at the base of whatever human endeavors are, I think fundamentally everybody is concerned about our own well-being. Right? We pursue well-being. Whether you go on a holiday or you go to a cinema or you go to a bar or a temple, basically you are pursuing happiness, well-being. It's just that someone else's well-being is just himself. Someone else's well-being is himself and the family. Somebody else's well-being is myself, the family, the society. Somebody's well-being means the entire nation. Somebody's well-being is the entire cosmology, the universe, right? So the question is, how inclusive is your identity? Meaning, when I say identity, I'm a Bhutanese, I'm a monk. No, that's not the thing. How do you strongly identify, yourself as? Because if you identify yourself very strongly as a Buddhist, then you know the consequences, right? If you identify yourself very strongly that I am a Bhutanese, you know the consequences. The nationalistic things that are happening around the world is simply because they identify with their nation and that's it. Others don't matter. Even you look at history, I do not know whether this would be proper to even say Hitler and Mussolini's, and they, I wouldn't say they were bad people because they were thinking that they were doing something great. That's their belief. I'm doing something for the larger, community. So the question of identity, matters. How you identify yourself with. If you identify with the nation, then national concerns becomes your concern, right? If you see, when you are identifying with the larger, interest, if you are the last person to walk away from this hole, you will make sure that the switches are off. Even though this space is not my house, but he identifies this is our UN house, right? But unfortunately today everything is exclusive. Everything is exclusive. Relationship, look at relationship, exclusive. I look at you, okay, I love you. I look, oh no. Right? Business, I give you 1, you give me 4. Even religion, for that matter, is very exclusive. If it is inclusive, it should unite people. Religions are dividing people. How can that be inclusive? Right? So everything is exclusive, and exclusivity is not a natural phenomenon. It's a constipated human creation. We are creating, we are giving meaning to, things. So, let me give you an example. We clean our houses, right? We keep our toilets clean. We make sure. Because you identify with the space. This is my space. But suddenly, how come our public toilets are such a mess? You get to see the urinal pots filled with either chewing gum residues or doma spits or doma residues or this candy wrappers and cigarette butts. Simply because this is not my space. I don't care, me. This me attitude is what we are suffering at the moment. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Now, people who are messing with the urinal pots, I don't label them as good or bad. No, it's not a question of good or bad. How inclusive are you that this space also belongs to me? Right? Because you are unable to figure out there is somebody who will have to clean the toilet. Right? Somebody will have to put his hand into this urinal pot, pick up that, whatever is there. Now the question is, would you, if you were the person who would pick up this, clean the doma stains, would you feel comfortable? That's the question. If you are inclusive, you will always feel this is not comfortable. Nobody would like to do that. So if you are inclusive of others' feelings, why we are harming others is, I don't care what you feel. That's the reason why we are harming others. Because if you care what he or she feels, look into our relationship. Your brother, your sister, because you care their feelings, therefore you consider how to take care of your actions. Because you are simply able to understand what others feel. So exclusivity means, I don't care what you feel. You suffer, that's your problem. So I become mindless. So this is, what is lacking. It's not a question of good or bad. It's a question of being insensitive to the feelings of people around you and to the things that is around you. Now, if you're into that urinal pot, if somebody who cleans where your own brother or your father or your mother or your sister, if you had that, thing, would you mess? You wouldn't, because now this is my space. This is my property. My own people will have to do it. But when you are exclusive, I don't care. I don't clean. This is not mine. My father doesn't have to do that job. So I become mindless. Mindless means being insensitive to the situations in which we exist. So inclusivity is just this, that you are able to understand how others feel from your own experience. If we are mindful of this, you become considerate to everything that is around you, because now you are able to understand what it means to be, what it means to do something to others.
So if I get it right, it's basically about how we really have to stretch our extent of affection and care and compassion beyond the current borders that we hold. So it's taking more ownership of things. In other words, we have to be more universal in our approach. But then in the real life, for things to function, there are also these separations and these demarcations of nations, of societies, of classes, creeds. And I suppose, for instance, in the case of your college, how would you promote this sense of universalist care and concern among the students to make them feel that they all have a stake in it? What are the kind of practical things you can do to instill such spirit? People are quite accustomed to the idea of divisions, of seeing one's own side as superior and better and wanting more, and then being biased against the other sides. Now we need to break through that barrier, this discrimination. What would be some practical tips if you were to implement this kind of ethos in your institution, which I'm sure you do already? What do you do?
So first, what we need to understand is that as far as our worldview is concerned, Buddhism tells, you start a prayer with Ma Namkhatang Nyampe Semchin. Right? What does this mean? This means cosmic identity, that you don't exist on your own. You are linked to every bit and bit in a piece of the existence. You are connected. Because unless you have this identity correct, which is universal, inclusive, your intellect is not good enough. Because intellect is like a knife, right? Sharper the knife, better it is, right? But identity is like the hand that you hold the knife, right? So if you have this identity that I am, related to everything, then that's in your experience, you are embracing everything as part of you. But that's an experiential approach, right? That everything is connected to me. But when it comes to living in reality, you have a family. Now the family is the first line of access that you have in terms of living your life in that context. Your friends are the first line of access, not to mean that they are the most important and the next line of access is not important. That's what Buddhism says, everybody is your parent, which means that everybody is included in you, right? But when it comes to living, it's not possible for me to interact with the world, entire world at one go. When it comes to execution, it's people like you. I come, in contact with you. Now you are the first line of my access towards implementing this larger goal of, the universal identity. So here, now, only when I have this feeling of love and compassion and understanding, that will give you that inner peace of mind. If I do not have that love and compassion when I am in, because you can talk about the world in terms of love and compassion, but if you are not compassionate to the person sitting next to you, then it's not compassion, it's not love, right? So your family members, by the design of nature, they are just your first line of access. But that does not mean the rest, the next line of access, are not important. It's important. It's like, you have 10 siblings living in different parts of the world. Now, since they are living in different parts of the world, there are occasions when you meet them. So today you meet one of them. Now you are the first line of access. That does not mean the rest 9 are not important. I still have that in my mind. I include them. But my access right now is you. So while I have my, love and compassion for everybody, when I'm when I'm interfacing with you, that's where I need to pay attention to. That's where my life is. So if I have this love, compassion, inclusivity, I'm joyful. And when I'm joyful, when you are joyful, you are a wonderful human being. Yes or no? No. Yes or no? If you are joyful and I meet you on the way, you will be pleasant, definitely to me. You will be definitely pleasant. But at times you get a little disturbed, you get a little depressed, you tend to be nasty, right? So what is good and what is bad? See, when situations around you are conducive and pleasant, you become happy, and that is what you label as good human being. Otherwise, you will not have, you cannot find what a good human being is, right? But when the outside situations are not conducive, you are depressed, and you become nasty, and that's what we label as bad human beings. But in reality, there are no good or bad human beings. They are only happy or miserable human beings. I mean, this is not a philosophy. This is not a concept. Just figure out yourself, because this is self-exploration on the basis of your first inquiry. Look into it and see. When you are wonderful, when you are feeling joyful, How do you feel? What is your response to the immediate environment? You become inclusive. You want to share.
But again, some people take joy in hurting others. So with that, let me move on to the next important topic. You brought up this idea of inclusivity as having no boundaries, as being total, pure universalist in approach in terms of affection and love. And I think loving kindness is one of the four immeasurable thoughts. Tsemeshi, immeasurable because there's no limit or measure to who you love, who you show this loving kindness to. So now, from what you say, we basically think globally and act locally. This is an old sort of adage I have learned as a boy. If you were to do that, how would you practice loving kindness in your own life?
I think
not to take joy from hurting others, but rather take joy in good things. What do you do personally? I'm an ardent practitioner of loving kindness, but share your ways of practicing loving kindness, both in sitting meditation perhaps, and also in action, in your engagement with the world.
I think you mentioned the word joy in hurting others. Let's examine this word. This is a very common narrative, right? We all say. But let me ask you this question. Anger, hatred, is this an intelligent expression of life or a very stupid expression of life? What do you say? Hatred, anger, jealousy. Is this an intelligent way of expressing life or is it a very stupid way of expressing life? Tell me. Stupid, right? Now when you...
Doesn't it?
Yeah, now. Okay, now let me say, okay. Now when you are enjoying somebody's misery,
or,
is it coming out of your vengeance? Is it coming out of your hatred? Is it coming out of your love and compassion? No, let's look at this. There lies the answer, because we human beings are ignorant. We always assume something to be something else. That's the definition of ignorance. You do not really know the ground reality. But the question is, when you enjoy somebody's failure, somebody's misery, is it coming out of your love and compassion for that person, or is it coming out of your hatred and vengeance and all these nonsense things? So now if it is coming from your hatred, nonsense things, then you ask yourself, when you are having a feeling of hatred, are you joyful? When you have a feeling of anger for somebody, when you have a nasty feeling against somebody, are you joyful? No, these are something that we need to ask ourselves. You will see that the joy you derive out of somebody's failure is always about your vengeance, your hatred, your animosity, not out of love and compassion. So that's something that we need to look at. Okay, now coming back to how do I practice love and compassion. I think one thing we need to get correct here. We always think love is about the other person. Love is always about the other person. Love is an action that you perform outside. Love actually is not about the other person. No, we should get this corrected. Love is not an action that you do outside. Love is not a transaction between two individuals where both are trying to squeeze happiness from each other. Love is about yourself. Love is about yourself because love is a sweet emotion. If you have it, you are joyful. That's why love is about you, not about the other. The moment you look at others about love, it's a transaction, it's a business, it's an action, it's an activity that you try to do. And that's why intellectually we know we have to love everybody, but we are not able to do it. Why? Because your love is a reaction to the situation that is happening outside. Love is not a reaction. Love is a sweet emotion within you. You create this situation within you, this inner, ambience. Love within that sweet emotion in you. If you are all by yourself, you are joyful by your own nature. If somebody comes in front of you, because you are joyful, the world suddenly looks beautiful. Yes or no? When you are joyful, the world looks beautiful. And when the world looks beautiful, you will naturally cast a loving glance at everything that you look at. I mean, don't take my words for granted. You have to, you have to investigate and explore whether, when you are joyful from within, now when you have a feeling of love, compassion, even if you are all by yourself, tears of ecstasy might even, drop from your, and you can never be bored about being alone because you are all the time, This is what Jampa, Nyingje, Gom. It's not about the other person. Gom. You have to ensure the sweet emotion. And when you have this emotion in you, you are joyful. When you are joyful, the world gets painted with this love and compassion. So you cast a glance, a loving glance. Now see, when somebody is loving, do you want to be in the company of a loving person or you want to be in the company of a miserable person? What's your choice? Loving person, right? You want to be in the... So please also know that if you want to be in the company of a loving person, every other person is expecting the same from you as well. Yes or no? It's not only you who want to be in the company of somebody who is loving, but every other person also wants that quality in you. And that quality will happen only when you are able to ensure this sweet emotion. So love is not about others. Love is about yourself. Because if you have love, you are joyful. If you do not have love, means you have hatred, jealousy, anger, animosity. Look into your state of being. Are you joyful? No. Definitely not. But think about love. Just this creation. So love is not an action that you do outside. Love is not a transaction between two individuals. Love is something that you can become. That's why we say you are the embodiment of love. You are the embodiment of compassion, which means you have become love. And with that love, you become loving. And with that lovingness, you look at the world, everything looks beautiful. Now, see, try this. If you have this feeling of love and compassion in you, and when you are in that joyful state of mind, your experience of seeing a person whom you always want to avoid, your experience changes, right? Otherwise, your love will be always in reaction. Okay, you are nice, you have been nice to me, I love you. Oh, you are not. This is why it's happening, because your love is in reaction to what's happening outside. But understanding of love is not about others, it's about you. Become love. Then you will see everything beautiful. And this is something that we need to work upon. Right? It will not come automatically. You have to strive. You take showers every day, right? You all. Some, right? Yeah. Okay. Doesn't matter whether you take every day or not, but you do take showers sometimes, right? Between the two showers, right? Do you do anything deliberately to get dirty? You don't. You want to be in the cleanest place, you want to be in the safest place, free of things, but still dirt happens, yes or no? Similarly, hatred, anger, jealousy happens. You don't have to do anything. That's, natural. But if you have to clean, it doesn't happen by itself. Does it? You have to strive, right? So to practice love, to practice compassion, You have to strive. That's not easy. You know, it's easier said than done. But something that is positive, you need to strive. So love and compassion, though I said it's not about others, it's about you. You need to, practice this one. Spending a couple of, minutes every day when you get up. Today, I will, whoever comes in my contact, I'll wish that the other person be happy. May he be happy. May she be happy. Constantly trying to imbibe this, nurture this loving kindness in you. And see, before a hot discussion, if you know that this discussion is going to be difficult, spend 5 minutes. Think about love and compassion. Prepare yourself to face the person. Your response will be different. Your experience is going to be definitely different. This is how we can, change and transform. Otherwise, just talking intellectually, academically, we know. But it doesn't happen because we are not striving. So love, compassion is something that we need to cultivate. Spend some time, every day. And when you have that, nurture that to some extent, your experience of the world will transform. That's the only way. We have no other choice. I don't know whether I...
I have lots of questions to ask you, actually. I mean, I'm even tempted to be the devil's advocate. You, from what I have learned, compassion and loving kindness has to always do with all the sentient beings, the other. You're saying it's all about oneself.
Yeah.
Even when we practice loving kindness, it's about all the mother sentient beings, all the other sentient beings. It's never about you just feeling kind of an illusory, delusional joy. It's about gaining equanimity to deal with all others in the most positive manner. So I don't know if you also mean that, but I got this idea. Yeah. We should get stuck into some kind of a self-fulfilling, delusional sense of joy, and not bother too much about our response to the other sentient beings.
I think, thank you, Doctor. I think it's important that you may be speaking the voice of the many people here and see what's happened is, look back into history 100 years, 200 years, 500 years ago. Our survival was an issue, right? With science and technology, the level of comfort and convenience that we are enjoying is unprecedented. Today, we don't have to really bother about survival, even though we will have wish and whims to have many things what what others have. But that's your creation. I want to live, it's not a problem. But I want to live like Denka. I want to live like Jerry. I want to live like Tashi. I want to live like Lucky. That's your problem. That's the problem that humanity is facing today, right? So 100, 200 years ago, people had to worry about lunch after their breakfast. They had to worry about their dinner after lunch. And they had to worry for tomorrow's food. But today, we can easily walk into the grocery shop and buy for 2-3 months, that kind of luxury we do have today. So in ancient times, people did not have the luxury, did not have the time to think on their own, right? Nobody, except few intellectuals up in the retreat, academicians, they thought, and they gave ready-made answers to the people that you have to do this for others, because these are baby steps. These are baby steps to really. Now today, in the 21st century, we have come of age. Our intelligence has sharpened, ever than before, right? When we have that convenience, when we have that luxury, now we need to reflect onto ourselves now. Because when you mistake a rope for a snake, there are only two choices. One is to investigate, think on your own, and look at it, put on the lights, and know that there is no snake, that you are unnecessarily suffering, which is not existential. Or the other one is, oh yes, there is a snake. Yeah, so let me remove this and throw it away. That's another way of getting rid of your fear, right? But now, in the 21st century, which one would you want? Know yourself and see that there is no suffering? Or do you want to see, okay, be moralistic, be ethical, and do all these things, and then, try to, figure out. Today, high time that we need to figure out ourselves and see what's happening. So what I'm trying to say is, though compassion is about yourself, but that's the process. Outcome is always inclusivity. What matters to you? See, if Denkar, I love Denkar. Denkar need not even have to know that I love her. The moment I have this feeling of love, I'm already happy, joyful. You even need not have to know. Similarly, when somebody says, I love you, it's a beautiful experience, right? But love can happen only within. Love happens only within. Expressions happen around. So you see the expression of love that is within. That is what is important. Otherwise, me, for my well-being, so long as I have the love and compassion in me, I'm joyful. But what does it matter to you? How does it benefit to you? I benefit you through my expression. That is where love and compassion through expression matters for everybody. That's what we need to understand today. Otherwise, we will talk as an academic issue about love and compassion. It's all about others, but when it comes to business, it's me and not you. We say prayers, but the moment you finish your prayer, you are willing to kick the dog. You are willing to cheat the other person. Let's be practical. These are baby steps. But now we can reflect on ourselves, because what is important is, how does my love and compassion that is within me is of benefit to you? That's the question. So long as you benefit from my joyfulness, isn't that wonderful? If every human being on this planet are joyful by their own nature, this plant, why do we want them here? It's not because the plant wants you to be pleasant. No, the plant itself is pleasant. Therefore, we want them to be around. So when you are joyful, you are pleasant by yourself. When you are pleasant, you will see the expressions outside. And that expressions you enjoy. And that is what it means to be loving. That is what it means to be compassionate. That's my understanding. Explore. I mean, scriptures will say something, but how do you give legs to your concepts and ideas so that what you think finds ground rather than flying up in the sky?
Yes, so I think we're running out of time. I would like to ask you, my last was quite specific. When you look at the situation now, you talked about how our capacities have actually now increased vastly in the 21st century. When you look at our mainstream education system, you have been an education leader for almost 2 decades now. Do you have any specific practical things that you would actually want the education program in Bhutan to adopt, especially to have inclusivity, loving kindness, and compassion in our children? Any very specific practical things that you would like to be changed?
I think when we talk about education, it has to be multi-pronged, multi-dimensional approach. It's not just one fix, that fixes everything. Because here we are talking about humanity, we are talking about human beings. And in the life of a human being, it's not you alone. You have influencing factors around. First, your family, the kind of sanskar, that bhaksha, or what you call that tendency that you develop in your family is transferred into into the children's psyche, right? Very important. Then the school, definitely, because in the school today, if you look at it, marks is all that matters. Everywhere you go, it's marks. 90%, 100% to be the first in the class. Competition. Competition. And in competition, what happens is you start with a big base, kill each other, reach the top. That's the nature of competition. And our education system is promoting that in many different ways. But what is natural is inclusivity. And inclusivity can happen only when you teach them how to excel. Excellence rather than competition. Excellence means that we all want to go up, not on the basis of competition. We all want to be up there. This is inclusivity. And because our education system emphasizes so much on academic performance, even admissions. Thank God today our new government has taken out that, and then now everybody gets up. But that's not the end of the story, right? Everywhere there is competition, right? Excellence is where, in competition, you will pull down somebody's leg all the time so that you climb up top. But in excellence, you help everybody reach the same level. That is missing. Today, because of competition, you would have seen, heard stories and seen, in the movies somewhere, that when you compete, means you want to kill the other person, right? That's fundamentally, you do not want to let the other person come to your thing. So you will, do every means possible to put that person down. That is what is being, And today, in competition, what is happening is collaborative study is not happening. Sharing is not happening. You are studying on your own, in isolation. In isolation, how much can you learn? 10%? Now, whoever learns 10.5% more than the other person, you excel, but you are basically learning very little. But if you are not working for, competition or marks or grades or percentage, now you're learning for knowledge. You want to know whatever is taught to you. Now coming first is not the issue. Knowing whatever is taught to you is the concern. Now when knowing whatever is taught to you, then you become inclusive and then share. I learned 50% from you, I learned 50% from you, I learned 50% from you. And that way everybody learns 100% or even, much more than that. So that's what we need to, for that to happen, everybody needs to put their head together.
Schools minimize, if not totally drop, this assessment based on scores and marks?
Slowly, that should be because the outcome, the indicator of academic success, by the way, literacy is just a means, it's not the goal, right? Literacy is just a means towards making this human being find full expression. That is what literacy means. Marks is an indicator that how much academic excellence you have achieved, but still it's a means. It's not the goal. It's not an end by itself. The end is transformation. Right? And how do you know that you are transformed? That you are a joyful human being by your own nature. Eating a chocolate is a pleasant experience, no doubt. Getting a gift from your father is a pleasant experience. But still it's limited because it comes from outside. Right? It comes from outside. It's not from you. It's somebody else's contribution. Not your contribution. Look at your happiness. Think of your happiness in your life, when you were so happy. And you will see your happiness was maybe your girlfriend wrote you a very good love letter, or your boyfriend wrote a very good love letter, or your father gave you something, or somebody did something nice to you. Therefore you were happy. Can you think of one incident in your life where you were joyful by your own nature? Hardly. Very few. I mean, with due respect to people who, have transformed to reach that level. But most of us, our happiness is always about somebody else's or something else's contribution. Never ours, right? So, success of academic, studies is how do we become joyful by our own nature. And there, in that context, we talk about love, we talk about compassion, we talk about affection, we talk about respect, we talk about trust. And these are not about others, these are about us. The moment you ensure this, you become joyful. The moment you become joyful, the world transforms. And that's what the world is looking for. If I am joyful and if I am a wonderful human being, won't you like to be in my company?
Yes.
Definitely. That's the goal of education, and everybody needs to really reflect on this and see where are the hurdles, where are the bottlenecks, where do we have to change. It has to be multidimensionally approached.
Yes. We'll take questions from the audience.
Thank you so much. My name is Yangde, and I came here because my friends went to speak me. So I was just like, maybe I'll just go and hear her out. But I'm really glad that I'm here because I got to learn so many different things today. I have a very silly question, and I just wanted to see how you respond to it. It's easy to love people who are, joyful and loving kindness, but they're also very difficult people, in real life. And how do you do loving kindness to people who hurt you the most, or you hate, or who are difficult, or quote-unquote who are your enemies or foes? So how do you do that? And this is like a real-life question because, sometimes people hurt you and you get hurt, so how do you practice that? That was my question. Thank you.
So before I answer this question, I would like to throw a question to you. Would you like to be joyful or not?
Yes.
You want to be happy, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now when somebody hurts, right, what's the choice? To be offended? No, I mean, seriously, to feel offended, to feel, disgusting about it, or you understand that somebody is hurting you simply because this person is not about him being good or bad. It's always about he or she being happy or miserable. Because if the other person is happy and joyful, when you are joyful, let's ask this question. When you are joyful and when you are happy from within, do you ever hurt others? So this is what, we have to look beyond what our eyes and what our ears, because sense perceptions are good enough for survival, for the body. But to understand life, mechanics of life, you need to look beyond what your eyes can see. What does this mean? This means when somebody is hurting you, instead of seeing the activity at the physical level, if you're able to see that this fellow is suffering, compassion is all about this, right? You see, when you see that somebody is suffering, your response is going to be different. But if you don't see that somebody is suffering and you are just looking at what he is doing outside, then, we are not really very different from Thimphu and Katu. This is what I always say, When Thimphu and Katu, see, this is the thing, with due respect, I'm not equating you to Thimphu and Katu, but in some ways I'm drawing a parallel. You throw a bone at a very aggressive dog, he will, be, right? If you throw a bone, but if you show a stick, right? No. We human beings also, when everything is all right, when everything is beautiful and fine, we are all wonderful human beings. Yes or no? But when somebody does something, like showing a stick to Thimphu and Katu, now you are so reactive, means how different are you? That's the question that we need to ask. Because humanity is tested in difficulties, in difficult times. That is what humanity means. Otherwise, we are not different from Thimphu and Katu. You are reactive. This we need to know, and this takes a little bit of striving. It will not come on its own. We have to look beyond what our eyes can see and what our ears can. And this is what education ultimately needs to ensure, that we look beyond our sense perceptions. Don't go by the sense perception. Sense perceptions are good for survival. The moment we are born, look at a puppy. The puppy, once it is born, it will look for survival. The sense perceptions are on. But as a human being, for survival, yes, our sense perceptions are good. But you fulfill your survival process. Now you're not settled. Thimphu and Katu will be settled with their stomach full. But we will never settle because we want to live happily. And our human well-being is ensured over and above survival. animals, their happiness is embedded in the very process of their survival. How do we know? Look at the deer in the wild. If there are green, lush vegetation, fresh air, fresh water, no predators, and good enough herds to give company, what would you do to make them more happy and more pleasant? For animals, to be a good cat or a good dog, you have to eat well. So long as you eat well, you become a good dog. You become a good animal. You eat well, you can become like me. Because the higher level is not fixed for human beings. It's up to us whether we want to live like a cat, live like a dog, live a miserable life or a joyful life. It's our striving. Did I answer your question? or I confused?
But also with regard to animals, because some animals, irrespective of the material comfort they have, they would want their family, they would want their company, so
yes.
they do go beyond just physical survival.
Yes.
So my name is Maggie Wheeler. I'm an Australian volunteer working at National Biodiversity Centre. There's a couple of questions I'd like to ask you. One is when people are angry or have other problems, a lot of it is from their karma, past experiences, and one such problem is grief. And I've never really heard grief handled by any Buddhist teachings. So, so far as I'm concerned, grief can be a major problem for someone interacting with other people, and I'm just wondering what can be done about it. The second question I have is with the education. One way to overcome the marks problem is to do away with exams and have assignments instead. And the assignments can be marked, and the assignments can be done as a group and handed in as a group and marked as a group. Yes, so that would reduce some of that competitiveness. And this competitiveness, as I've seen in Bhutan, extends into the professional career sort of seeking environment. Yes, so that's all.
See, I think today we eulogize anger because unless you are a little tough and rough and reactive, people don't pay heed to you, right? And therefore, in some ways, indirect ways, our anger has served its purpose. But basically, when you are angry, when you shout at somebody, when you fume at somebody, what is your experience? Are you joyful from within? Right? That's the question. That's the question. Are you joyful from within? If you are not, then perhaps you have to know what in Buddhism we have this term called Themba. Themba means mindfulness. Mindfulness, I always believe in decoding things and make it very simple so that it's intelligible to you. Themba basically means that you are mindful of your emotions, right? Yeah. Anger, you have to be mindful. You have to be, a demon has, arisen in my mind, a demon. You have to be mindful. But today what's happening is something, there is a trigger, stimulus, stimuli outside, and you react to that situation and you even do not know that you are angry. You are trying to figure out how do I bash his nose. Right? And you do not even know that you are angry. So you are not mindful, right? When you are not mindful, you are not aware of the consequences of afflictive emotion, that you are suffering. You are busy figuring out how to fix that. But if you are conscious, if you are conscious, first you will detect your anger. Oh, the demon. Then when you detect your negative afflictive emotion, then the next Shijin is awareness that I am the first victim of my anger. Yes or no? You are the first victim of your anger. Then only you will do something, and then the other person may, depending on the level of his understanding or whatever, you will inflict. Otherwise, the first victim is always you. Only when you are the victim, you become unpleasant. And when you are unpleasant, nasty things will happen. And that's what's happening around, right? So, when this anger is something that we need to understand. The solution lies in the understanding. There is nothing to do away or nothing to cast away. The moment you understand your emotions, you will nip the emotion right in the beginning. You will reach a place where you will not even let emotions, this kind of reflective emotions, arise in you. If you are constantly mindful and aware of the consequences of your reflective emotions, you know that you are suffering, you are creating, you are suffering. The manufacturing unit is in your head. Unless I put off this manufacturing unit in my head, I'm going to suffer. It's me who is creating this problem. Unless you detect that, unless you have that understanding, suffering will continue. So it's all about understanding. You need to understand, identify, recognize, and be aware of the consequences of your affective emotions, that you are the first victim of your affective emotions. If you are sensible enough, now the choice is, do you want to suffer by continuing what you have been doing, or you want to take a break from it? That's a choice.
Any other question?
I suppose the second part was a comment on the...
It was a comment.
Yeah, it was a comment.
And also, just to the topic of grief in Buddhist literature is generally covered under suffering, suffering being a much broader term. And so there is a great deal of response to grief, but not necessarily presented strictly focused on grief alone, but towards suffering as well. Okay.
Well, if no one has questions, Lopen, my last question to the guest is always about which two books that you have been offered as a token of appreciation you chose and why? Or if you have other books that you read that inspired you, that you'd like to share with others also. And I see two titles here that you should close.
Yeah, actually I submitted, I was told the organizers will have 2 books for me, but because I didn't know which one will be available, I submitted 4 names actually, and fortunately the two have come. I selected one philosophy, 2 areas. One area was philosophy, which both seems to be on philosophy. Another one was on history. History, because today, great historian here. History, people tend to listen. No, it's not here. Why I chose history? Is that, I have your copy, and I have gone through it a couple of times, actually, some sections of it. People today, confuse, that if they know some facts and events of the past, they are historians. If that is true, then the computer is better historian than anybody else, right? History is about the past. The past will make meaning only if it finds expression into your present moment, present lifetimes, and shape the present, the reality. Then only history makes sense. Otherwise, what happened 2,000 years ago? What does it matter to me? Whether Bhutan was a sovereign state 1,000 years ago, so long as it is a sovereign state today and everybody is happy, what does it matter? But history is all about humanity, that we derive values from it, that we shape the present, and when we shape the present, future is the next step. If your present life, which is the first step, is stable, your future life, your future step is definitely going to be, because future is just a projection, it's not a reality. Past is gone. It's still not a reality, but what it matters is what knowledge, what values can be derived from the past. So in that context, in Bhutan, we have had the, this unparalleled advantage of, dynamic leadership, their contribution, especially our monarchs. I'm interested. Philosophy, I would like to see that everything, science and philosophy. Science very important. Philosophy about Buddhism, knowing about the inner reality, and for human well-being, very important to know. And the other one was on Tantric Buddhism, because it's all about, Tantric Buddhism is all about, how to involve yourself passionately with everything that is around you. Because especially in the Tantric Buddhism, when you talk about the sacred outlook, it talks about the, the divine configurations of aesthetics and beauty and perfection. That you see everything in divine configuration, gods and goddesses, no women, no ordinary women and men, but god and goddesses, no ordinary places but citadels and palaces, no ordinary space but paradise. So in that context, the concept of paradise and concept of heaven is about this articulation of your experience of how you can convert and use everything for your well-being and inner transformation. That's what Tantric Buddhism talks about. So in that, from that point of view, I was, interested, because I haven't seen these two books.
So, thank you very, very much for such a rich, wonderful talk, and also for coming all the way from Gyeongsa for this. So let's give it a round of applause. I
hope I didn't confuse, because sometimes
and there's the last ritual that I have to perform. I always cite a Bhutanese traditional piece of wisdom or a verse from Buddhist literature to conclude the session. And I was struggling to find a verse this afternoon that would fit this session, and I was lucky to come across Shantideva, who we have cited many times by now. And he says, talking about inclusivity and universalism, he says, Jitar Thame Yuidila, Kombe Dagi Lojua, Deshin Semchin Jenaya, Kombe Dalu Chimju. Just as we generate a sense of self towards this body through habituation, in the same way, why can't we generate a sense of self towards other beings? Thank you very much.